After 3 hours of playtime, Code Vein 2 is playing like an anime Souls-like sequel that prioritizes refinement over reinvention. 7 years is a long time to wait for any game, but especially the sequel to a seemingly successful Souls-like that did a pretty good job standing out from an otherwise crowded genre. This was certainly the case for 2019's original Code Vein, which did so by playing into the inherently sexy nature of its vampire-like Revenants, covering it in a uniquely anime art style, and giving you a constant NPC companion to fight by your side. It's with this in mind that I find myself asking, what the heck took Bandai Namco so long? Well, having now played roughly 3 hours of Code Vein 2 for preview, I can confidently say that these 3 core appeals return in full force, albeit with a few mechanical refinements sprinkled in. Coupled with a wildly flexible combat system and a more ambitious story that involves time travel, this is one game that's definitely shaping up to be one to watch in early 2026. The first thing to say is that if you're someone who hasn't played Code Vein, don't worry. This is a sequel that elects to spin up a completely standalone story for the most part, one where you take on the guise of an all-new, fully customizable Revenant hunter charged with saving the world by jumping into the past in order to, you've guessed it, shape the future. You know, that old chestnut. There's talk of ancient civilizations, a planet on the brink of destruction, and an almighty disaster event known in universe as the Resurgence. Code Vein 2 definitely hits you with a lot of information that can initially come across as overbearing. It can definitely be a lot to take in. However, if you're an action RPG fan who doesn't mind sinking their teeth into lore, this is a sequel that has you more than covered. For everyone else though, what you'll find is a fairly in-depth Souls-like that offers an unprecedented amount of customization for the way you'd like to play. Because in addition to a pretty extensive character creation tool at the start, multiple weapon types, various gear slots, and the ability to store numerous builds called blood codes help make it easy for you to play your own way. When it's getting out of the way of itself, it wouldn't be hyperbolic to say that Code Vein 2 wants to be one of the most flexible and customizable modern Souls-likes ever, and this was fully on display in the 2 sections I got to play through as part of this preview. Following a section in an underground prologue where I was able to get to grips with Code Vein 2's basics, I was quickly fast-forwarded to a mid-game dungeon known as the Sunken Pylon, which primarily took place in the past. It was here where my Revenant hunter was partnered up with the upper city's ruler, Josie Anju, while plunging ever deeper into the underground halls of this watery location, all in the hopes of finding out what happened to her sister and then freeing Josie from her cocoon in the present. Keeping up? Story-wise, it was a bit like throwing into the deep end, but the section served as a great reminder for how Code Vein does things differently compared to your average Souls-like. This is primarily seen from the way that one type of attack fuels and influences your ability to deploy another. Conventional weapon attacks, for instance, builds blood that is then able to power drain attacks, which then builds ichor that ultimately fuels forme attacks, the last of which is your most decimating and powerful. The combat system's cyclical nature, where one move directly feeds into the other, can be confusing to keep in mind at first, until it becomes second nature, and this is exactly what happened in my preview after the first hour or so. Honestly, still one of the biggest appeals of Code Vein for me is the unique partner system, which is still so different compared to many other of the game's genre peers. Games of this ilk so often place emphasis on keeping you isolated and alone in order to build tension, with only certain climactic moments and boss battles letting you call for aid. Here in Code Vein 2, however, as in the first game, you'll always have a partner by your side, which you can either choose to have fight alongside you or assimilate into your Revenant hunter in order to make them a tad stronger during confrontations. 7 years on, it's still another smart way to let action RPG heads play their own way. While I personally always chose the summon option so that I always had backup and could be revived whenever I was downed, the hardcore audience can always assimilate to help build in extra tension for boss battles. Taking on foes throughout the Sunken Pylon provided a good sense of risk-reward, even if most of the halls that made it up did look a bit samey and didn't offer much by way of variety. In fact, the only times the visual color palette was shaken up was during story moments, whereby Josie came upon a new piece of information regarding her sister Lise, and the pace significantly slowed down so we could step through reconstructions of her memories. This change of pace might not be for every type of player, but if Code Vein 2 is able to bring an equal amount of emotional weight to all its other companions you'll be able to wield, there's plenty of story and context provided here that helps make it easier to become even more invested. My preview ultimately culminated in the dungeon's final boss fight against a giant metagen remnant that served as a true test for everything I'd learned up until that point. The cause for the upper city's polluted waters, its inky nature and various various limbs did well to make me think on my feet, first taking it on with the twin blades and then the longsword where I had the most success. By the end, I really appreciated Code Vein 2 placing a missile, a save point essentially, directly outside this confrontation. The boss was tough, epic, and dare I say a little revealing, but by learning its patterns I was able to get its health down to less than half before my session ended. Needless to say, Souls-like players in want of a challenge are sure to find it here in Code Vein 2. After my 3 hours of playtime then, there's no doubt in my mind that Code Vein 2 will end up being worth the wait for genre fans. Rather than throw out all the first game's unique ideas and fresh mechanical spins, it's a sequel that is so far doing a pretty good job at refining it by providing a litany of more options. And in my preview, I didn't even get to feel the full effects of its brand new open world or rideable motorcycle. I definitely got the sense that Bandai Namco is keeping some secrets up its sleeve. I'm not sure that the story being placed so front and center will be for everyone, and sure, the sunken pylon wasn't the most visually interesting dungeon to experience, but the pieces are definitely here for something special to coalesce. Luckily, with Code Vein 2 scheduled to launch very soon on January 29th, we won't have too much longer to wait until we can properly sink our teeth in and find out. So there you have it guys, in terms of my early preview impressions of Code Vein 2. Were you a fan of the original and do you plan on picking this one up? Be sure to let me know in the comment section below. Then when you've done that, why not leave this video a like and consider subscribing to the All Out Gaming YouTube channel to stay up to date with even more videos like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.